Welcome to Casual Politics, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for accepting my request, and I'm very grateful to you.
It's a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So first, I know that you need no introduction for our readers, but please let me do a short introduction for our readers. You were first Shadow of Secretary for International Development, and when David Cameron became Prime Minister, he appointed you as Secretary for International Development in 2010, and then until 2012 you served as Secretary for International Development, and then you became Chief Whip, but very briefly and then you had to resign. So my first question is that as UK Secretary for International Development, what is the most generous aid contributions that you proceeded to the developed world, and you're proud of it?
Well, the most important job I had was to ensure that every pound of hard-earned British taxpayers' money we spent on development really counted to deliver 100 pence of results on the ground. And that was really my top priority. And in terms of what we did, I think one of the most interesting things we did was to assemble in London a huge conference with more than 40 countries and many private sector companies, philanthropic foundations, to support vaccinating children under 5, because vaccinating children is one of the key things you can do to save lives in the developing world. It has a big effect because, of course, if your children aren't sick, the mother can go to work and the children can go to school and so forth. So, vaccination is an incredibly important development effort. And as a result of Britain's commitment throughout the whole of this Parliament, there will be a child in the poor world vaccinated every 2 seconds, and the life of a child saved every 2 minutes from diseases that none of our children suffer from. So I think that's a very important part of British development's contribution, and one that everyone in Britain can be very proud of.
And over the past 20 years, how would you classify the UK in the rankings, regardless of its conduct towards the developed countries?
Well, I think Britain has always been a development leader. I think back to the time when Linda Chalker and Chris Patten were Conservative development ministers before 1997, and then after 1997 the Labour Party put a lot of effort into development, and then we've carried that on from 2001, but I hope we've made it even more effective. And of course, this Conservative-led government has introduced the 0.7% commitment. We promised to do it, and we've done it, spending 0.7% of our gross national income on development. And I'm very proud indeed to have been a member of a government which, in spite of the great austerity we faced at home, has stood by its commitment to the poorest people in the world and not balanced the budget on their backs.
You made clear that value for money in aid donations was one of the critical importance, and provided a guarantee that British legislation would be amended to ensure that Britain's aid contribution will be maintained at 0.7% of UK GNI by 2013. So my question is, first, did it happen? And
what happened?
Did you keep that promise that Britain's aid contribution will be maintained at 0.7% of gross national income by 2013? So my question is, did it happen, and then is it still happening?
Yes, we increased from about 0.5% to 0.7% last year. So it was a commitment of the government, and it's one that we have delivered.
And now is about Conservative MPs defecting to UK. Do you think that Conservatives they're scared of Europe now?
Well, I don't think it makes much sense to move to UKIP, because the only way of getting a referendum, which is what UKIP supporters want, they want an in-out referendum on Europe, is to have David Cameron in Downing Street after the next election. There's only two people who are going to be in Downing Street. It's either Ed Miliband or David Cameron. And therefore for UKIP to do anything which would hinder David Cameron remaining as our Prime Minister would be a terrible mistake and a misjudgment. So I think the answer for UKIP is not to fracture the centre-right family or those who believe in a referendum on Europe, but hopefully to return to the fold at the next election and vote Conservative.
But we've seen, actually we saw two defections over the past 4 weeks. One, it was Mr. Douglas Carswell's defection, and the other one recently Mr. Rickless, and today it was one of Conservative major donators who defected to UKIP. So how can your party stop defections to UKIP?
Well, I think by focusing in a very civilised way on the key issue, which is if you want a referendum and a chance for Britain to leave Europe or stay in Europe, in order to get that vote, you need David Cameron in Downing Street.
And on your party's policies, the other day, Ipsum Murray published a report, and in that report gave Labour a slight lead over Conservatives with the best policies on NHS, and it was actually 30% lead over Conservatives. So
I think it will have been dented considerably by today's brilliant speech by the Prime Minister in Birmingham.
But he didn't say how he will fund the NHS.
On the contrary, he did. He said it would be ring-fenced, as it has been in this Parliament, for the next Parliament.
But King's Fund report, they said that even 12 billion would not be enough for NHS.
Well, I don't agree with their analysis. Increasing funding continually to the National Health Service is the way to ensure that it can really deliver for all of us across our country. But you can only deliver if you have a successful economy, and the Labour Party will not deliver that.
And now let's talk about the Scottish referendum. Don't you think that the No campaign was so misled because it based itself on fear rather than being optimistic that a political campaign should be?
Well, I think it was the No campaign was a realistic campaign, pointing out the dangers, blowing some of the froth off the euphoria of the Yes campaign, and after all, the No campaign was successful.
And do you think the Prime Minister was right to propose to put the referendum in the first place?
Yes, I think it was a brave decision to make, but we have now dealt with the issue of Scottish independence for a generation, in my view.
And on the matter of only English MPs vote on English issues, do you agree with the Prime Minister?
Yes, I think it's good. We've got to find a way, and it ought to be possible, in my opinion, to ensure that English votes on English issues prevail. And I don't think it's too difficult, and I hope we can get there relatively quickly.
Well, it was your party's manifesto in 2010. So why did you wait until now? Why your party didn't do it before this referendum?
Well, I think it's risen up in importance, in salience, and following the referendum and the issue of more and different powers going from Westminster to the Scottish Parliament. Clearly the issue is much more important and urgent.
And how do you foresee the future of Scotland after the referendum?
Well, I think they should have more power over their money raising, over the tax raising, but they must also have more responsibility. And I think if they're going to have power over fundraising in Scotland, they want to have that power and decision-making ability, then I don't think they should come to London for a subsidy from English taxpayers.
And how about to devolve power to English assemblies? Do you think your party is going to do and devolve more power to English assemblies?
Well, I think we can devolve more powers to Britain's great cities. That's different from devolving power to regions, and certainly I don't think we need more political apparatus. We may need slightly different political apparatus, But I cannot see any possible argument for assemblies, regional assemblies in Britain. If the answer to any question is we need more paid politicians, then I think you have to look very carefully at the question which is being asked, to which that is the answer.
And again, on today's conference, we watched and we heard two great speeches from Boris Johnson and Theresa May, who are actually maybe they will run to become leaders of your party. So, which one do you think that they can become actually a serious and more serious leader of your party?
I think they're both extremely strong contenders, but there is of course no vacancy at the moment, and no reason to believe there will be one in the near future.
And now, can I ask you questions on Iraq? Just one, two. On Iraq, we showed on Friday that the House voted for airstrikes in Iraq. So, do you think that the Prime Minister will recall Parliament and for vote for airstrikes in Syria?
Well, not at the moment, and because last year a vote was lost on Syria, I think we would need to be very clear before having another vote that the situation had changed, which it has, and that change commanded support across the House of Commons, and only then I think would the Prime Minister seek another vote.
And in this country there are more than 500 jihadis that join ISIS or other Islamist groups. So, how can we stop them from coming to this country?
Well, I think as the Prime Minister said in his speech this morning, if you leave this country to go and fight for Islamic State, you have made your allegiance clear, and that allegiance is not British, and therefore the government will be looking at ways of ensuring that we are able to apprehend anyone who comes back and wishes us ill, or indeed anyone who comes back at all. And we need to balance that clearly by ensuring that the laws we have are not laws which run counter to the democratic freedoms and liberties that this country has fought for down the generations.
And why this country is only sending 6 tornadoes to Iraq, whereas that other countries they sending actually more and contributing more on airstrikes.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what is required, but we're also helping to arm and train the Iraqi troops, and I'm sure that we will continue to do a great deal to assist what must in the end be, Iraqi and Peshmerga and Free Syrian Army boots on the ground there.
And my last question will be, first, why would you like our viewers or our readers to vote for the Conservative Party, and why do you think that the best placed party to secure a better Britain?
I think that the work that the coalition has done over the last 4.5 years has been vital in saving our country's economy, but it's not completed yet. And at the next election there'll be a choice whether to complete that work over the following 5 years with David Cameron as Prime Minister, or go back to the disastrous policies of the past which have done this country so much damage under Ed Miliband.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell, for answering all my questions.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you.